Welcome to Women of Insurance, where we amplify women's voices, celebrate success, and keep it real about the journey of building wealth, wellness, and purpose. I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Ezra.
We're here to spotlight stories behind agents, mentors, and women changing the way we look at financial freedom. This is our bonus episode since we won't be filming again until December 12th. Ezra and I found this video online that we really resonated with. We wanted to share it with y'all and see what your thoughts are, what resonated with you, and what kind of feedback we got from it.
It kind of made me had like triggered this thought process, like going into our careers, whether it's for someone else or for yourself, we kind of have this framework that we give ourselves. And I related a lot to what she was expressing because I think it's a constant thing that comes up all the time. So even if we worked on it, I think it just comes up. But let's take a look at the video over here.
Yeah,
There
we're
you
ready.
go. Perfect. So I'm going to play the video. So hopefully it's not too loud.
If your job makes you miserable, this is likely the reason, and especially if you're an overachiever. A few years ago, this insight changed my life, and it's when I realized that I was basically miserable because I was making my career my entire identity. If you grew up in an immigrant family, you might also relate to this, but my entire life, I was taught to prize good grades and security and job and achievement. And then I remember I came across this paper that I read that was like reading an insight into how my mind works, about how when you link your identity, your self-esteem to achievement status, you make yourself more susceptible to a fragile self-esteem, massive anxiety, defensiveness, burnout. This was so real for me. I remember feeling like I was spending so much time on things like getting the perfect internship, getting into the perfect grad school, all these things that even the smallest rejections would cause me to completely spiral. Getting rejected from a random private equity firm that I didn't even care about, or a passive aggressive comment from a boss that I didn't even really like. Everything shook me to my core in a really unhealthy way. Work is still a huge part of my life, and ironically, I probably work just as much as I used to. But the main difference is that I'm no longer miserable. I'm actually very happy. And I attribute it to one, the fact that I no longer guide my career decisions based on extrinsic motivations, things like status or money, and instead focus on intrinsic things like my values, relationships with people, learning, a huge one. And two, this is a very real exercise that helped me a lot from this incredible book called Work Identities. I basically learned how to diversify my identities. I'm no longer just a founder, but I'm also now a creator, a daughter, a friend, a volunteer. I have tons of random hobbies that I'm horrible at and do just for the joy of, build random side projects. The big reason I started doing that is because of the recommendations of this book that basically talks about treating your life rather than thinking about in your head who you are and then making a decision based on that, actually using little micro experiments to figure out who you are. A side project, volunteer for a position, shadow a friend in a different industry that you're curious about. You've seen my other videos about designing your life. In that book, it's very similar in premise, aka learn by actually doing and getting data and using that to guide your decisions rather than overthinking and then never doing anything or making a totally wrong decision.
Sweet. So that was definitely a great video. And I personally, the things that I got was, we can identify to be from like in other people's perspective of us, maybe an overachiever, right? Making your career your only identity. Um, I grew up with good grades, of course, because I was an overachiever. Later on, to also learn that that really didn't matter, right? Um, and then linking our identities into to achievements like, oh, I did X, Y, and Z. I'm successful with this, and that's it. I understand and can kind of relate to a past of mine where, self-esteem, right? The ego was crushed so hard when you didn't get approval, right? When you didn't get the grades, when you didn't get that score that you wanted. Um, I remember going through that, growing through that and understanding like, hey, it's not so bad at all, right? Um, but yeah, I think learning that, are you in that season of your life, you know? Um, and also like, where did that come from? Where was that learned?
Mhm.
Um, and I totally agree that being multifaceted is where it's at, right? You know, a little bit of everything, and that makes you a wise person in a sense, you know? I'd
Mhm.
rather be wise than a smart ass. So that's my above the surface take on that. But yeah, what about you, Tiff? Like what did you understand from it? Like how did it resonate with you?
Yeah, it really resonated for me, like growing up with an immigrant family, like how we are programmed to go to school, get good grades, be that overachiever,
Mhm.
because that's what makes us successful. And I really, I think it, in my personal story, it really shared, I mean, it really tapered in for me when she started talking about the multifaceted. And it wasn't until recently, like the past maybe 5 years, that I started dabbling in more of my hobbies, my different talents. Like
Mhm.
before, I would always just introduce myself as my career. And I think so many of us do, right? So many, like the first 5 minutes you talk to someone, it's like, oh, hi, my name is Tiffany. Oh, hi, what's your name? And what do you do? You
Mhm.
know,
Yeah.
and instead of making our career our entire identities, like what else? What do you like to do? What are your passions? Like
Yeah.
what brings you joy and what makes you want to get up in the morning? And like
Yeah.
that's what I got from this video. It's like treating individuals more like themselves than just a title, if that makes sense.
For sure, for sure. I do recall some people asking like, you know, what do you do? And I
Mhm.
remember it changed for me because I would have like a heavy long pause, but then later on in life it changed for me
Mhm.
where my rebuttal in a sense was like, well, I do a lot. What do you need? How can I help you? Right? So it's kind of like what I do depends on what you need, right? So
Uh-huh.
like it's gone to like I don't really explain, yeah, I don't really explain or attach like really what I do, but it's more of like, well, I'm a friend first, right?
Uh-huh.
How can I help you? Then let's see if I can actually do this or not, you know?
Mhm.
Um, I think it takes a while to change that, right?
Yeah, it definitely does. I think in our society, we we're programmed this way. And it's so, stepping away from the norm, right? Stepping away from our, what is it, conditioning.
Yeah.
It's it's a little challenging, but once you practice, just like with every muscle or every workout you do, it gets easier and it gets better.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
Like, I'm guessing you've been through this, right? Of
Oh.
course. What emotions, well, what emotions come up? Like, if you can remember, what emotions have come up when you are not performing or achieving?
Oh, so much anxiety.
Oh no.
Girl, anxiety, my body sweats. I get so sweaty.
Same.
Yeah, so just a feeling of like defeat or like anxiety, like I feel like I need to like crawl up into a ball and hide. But then I'm realizing throughout practice, it's like when you feel that feeling, no one else can feel it but you. It's, that's your own battle. And when you feel like crawling up in a ball and hiding, that's actually when you should step up and you should, show your nervous system that yes, I can do it. It's okay that we have a little hiccup. If we
Yeah.
have a little anxiety, if we have a like feelings like, oh, we can't do this, but you're training your nervous system. Like, yes, I can be a little bit different. I can identify as just a me,
Yeah,
not a title.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I had a talk this past Tuesday with a group, and it was like in that moment, in our thought process in that moment, one of my slides was off, which completely threw me off.
Mm.
Okay. The sweating came on, like profusely sweating.
Uh-huh.
Girl, my top lip was like glistening. But I was like, what's bothering me? Is it really me sweating because my anxiety reflects that way, like shows that way? Or
Mhm.
is it because I messed up? Right. And I realized now being older, like back then I would have been like, oh my gosh, my slide is messed up. That's it. Like just drop the ball, right? And completely give up and not even continue. But
Mhm.
through that, I like continued to finish with a presentation. And my only worry was like, I should have just had a handkerchief to dab my face or something, right? Or a fan, you know?
Uh-huh.
And I think I would have been a little bit more comfortable than I even think about like, oh, did I mess up? I was more of like, I should have had a handkerchief, you know?
Uh-huh.
But it's like a split second when that happens in your mind, right?
Mhm.
It seems slow, but in reality, it happens so fast. And I think it's just crazy. Like the mind is so powerful. It's it's vast and we learn every single time like we go through something. But I think putting yourself in situations like that where it's not going to be perfect definitely helps you get rid of that whole external validation. You-
Uh-huh.
I know for a fact I was like, what are they going to think, right? Like I'd even think of that back then when I was a kid. I always thought of like, what are other people going to think, you know? And it's like, doesn't matter. Now it's like, it really doesn't matter. It's like, are you enjoying yourself doing what you do, right? Um, did you consider yourself an overachiever?
I would say yes, but because I put so much pressure on myself,
Mm.
I know in the past I didn't take the shots I was going to take because I was so afraid of failing. So
Oh,
like I was the overachiever, but I was so afraid of failing that I wouldn't take that first step.
yeah. Analysis paralysis, right?
Yeah.
I think that's
Uh-huh.
my brothers tell me. Analysis paralysis, where we overthink every single situation just coming from one data point, which is ourselves,
Yeah.
and not even rolling the dice, to see
Yeah.
the outcome of it, right?
Yeah.
I kind of I think I was torn for a little bit when I got into breath work because I was like, oh, this is a new identity. Is this just it for me? Right? Like it was always like, do I just be attached to a holistic healer? Like what is it, right? Um,
Yep.
so I kind of was like, okay, I do this too, I do this too, and then learning the term multifaceted. I think I love that, but then I was also torn of like being multifaceted. Doesn't that run in the lines of being also an overachiever? You know, so I'm like, is it a thin line? I still question that. Like, is it a thin line of being a overachiever, being multifaceted, or is it a more of like, yeah, I am overachieving, but it's something that I want to put myself into instead of being forced to be an overachiever type thing.
That part,
Okay.
that part.
Okay.
I really think, yeah, being multifaceted is beautiful. I mean, that just is just a human experience.
Mm.
It is being able to be so many different identities and whole different hats in different situations. I think that's so beautiful about, just being human. But I wouldn't say that's being an overachiever. I would say that's not over, that is achieving, I think, because yeah, we can be so good at multiple things.
Oh, for
It's
sure.
yeah, it's not impossible, it's I'm possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. How old were you when you kind of broke away from the good grade, good job, good life narrative?
I can't say I can't say I'm like all the way there yet,
Yeah.
but the first step for me, it was really in my, I want to say 30, like 30. When I hit 30, I was like, there has to be more. I can't just be stuck in this one identity.
Mm.
I, I want to explore more. I want to take chances. I want to take a risk. I
Yeah.
think that was huge for me, like when I hit 30. Maybe a little bit before that, but 30 for sure was like, that was a mark where I'm like, taking action instead of just like having the analysis paralysis.
Got you.
How
Yeah.
about yourself?
Ooh.
How did you shed the overachiever feelings?
I think it was I say this all the time with sharing my back injury. Um, God listened when I asked for a break, and he's like, "Yeah, we're gonna break your back because you are so stubborn. I'm gonna lay you flat, and you're just gonna
Uh-huh.
lay down and watch, the sun and the moon rise, like
Uh-huh.
you're gonna do things slower." And I think being disabled and bedridden and like really not even being able to lift up my head, I had to reflect on who I was, right? And
Mhm.
I felt like I wasn't doing much because I was incapable of even eating. You get me? Incapable of changing myself. Like the nitty down to basic stuff was out of my hands, out of my control. So much so like TMI, but I was, like looking at my 27, like being 27, I was like, am I gonna wear Depends now? Because like I can't hold my bowel movements. Like it was that.
Uh-huh. Oh gosh.
And then from being a high functioning person, right? I consider that being an overachiever to like, I'm just laying down. I,
Mhm.
I can't do the things that kind of I identified with, right? I can't be of service to another person. I had to be of service to myself first and
Mhm.
learning to do that. And then finally saying like, actually, I don't need I don't need my hands and my feet, right? Like I started building more gratitude for what I just had, which was number one, my breath. Number
Mhm.
two, I still have a functioning brain. I still have eyes and ears and a mouth, like I can listen, I can speak. I may not be able to physically do much, but I'm still right in the mind, you
Yeah.
know? I can and I think that realization and having more gratitude was really the breakthrough of like, okay, there's got to be more than
Mhm.
my previous career, my previous job, you know?
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, I felt like a kid, like just exploring,
Uh-huh.
you're like, oh, what now? Let's see how I react on a 5 hour hike, like let's see how I react or how I like when my friends invite me to something that's like I don't even go to,
Yeah, yeah.
like let's try going to the gym at a different time, of the day. Like, what's the crowd like,
Mhm.
so yeah, I think that was that for me in my late
Like a
27.
rebirth.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
It's like, who am I? Like but I think that was really that part. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think it's always different for people. I don't know, but maybe the frequency is, just like you and I, like both of us kind of had it later on in our lives. And I think it's just how our society has allowed us to kind of narrate ourselves. There is some type of resonance with like people in their late 20s going into their mid 30s. They have
Mhm.
this whole, what is it, new life, rebirth, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Rebirth. And it's around the same age. And so if you haven't been there yet, it's gonna happen sometime soon. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
People, they just know themselves well enough and have gotten to this enlightened state already, of being multifaceted
Mhm.
and changing that overachieving energy into a different flow state, right?
Yeah, like just reprogramming our subconscious, reprogramming our behaviors, like just creating new identities of like what it means to be them. Like who do they actually want to be?
Yeah. And for
Show
those of
up.
you, tapping in, I do have some questions, maybe thought-provoking questions about this topic. I'll also give you guys the link. We'll also give you guys the link to that video so you can refer back to it. But identity and achievement, do you always feel pressure to be on or successful, and why? Um, what types of validation do you rely on most? Is it grades, money, titles, or praise? It's discovering your love language and what works, what doesn't work, right? Um, what or how has actually overachieving helped you?
Mhm.
Because it is also a positive thing. How has it helped you and how has it hurt you, of course, right? But how has it helped you to be a overachiever? And then what identities have you neglected because your career took center stage?
Ooh, that's a
Yeah.
good. I like that
So
one.
those are my questions. Those are some prompts. Hopefully, we get to see what you guys share. I know for a fact me and Tiff can dive deeper into this, of course. But do you have any more questions, Tiff, to add on to that?
Mm, how about what kind of advice you would give to your younger self, knowing that you have, knowing that being multifaceted is so beautiful? Or like what are your guys' thoughts about being multifaceted? And what are some of the advice you would give to your younger self who may have not experienced that enlightened feeling of like stepping into their own personal self?
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, that's a good question I have.
that's a very powerful one, right?
Mm.
Every time I think of that question, I'm like, oh, baby S. Like, girl, you just need a hug.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, there's one, I think what she asked in the video too was really overall, if we could no longer rely on our careers, right? Or achievements, how would you introduce yourself to someone? You
Are you
know,
asking that? Are you asking me that? I'm like,
you can answer it if you want, but I'm asking
ooh,
the audience,
yeah.
if they want. I think that was the last question, the thought of my mind, right? Like if you had nothing, no career, right? You had no productivity
Uh-huh.
or achievements, how
Mhm.
would you introduce yourself to someone?
Ah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
I just be like, hi, my name is Ezra.
I know. First thing that came
That's
up to
it.
my mind was like, I'm Tiffany and I like sunflowers, or I'm
Yes.
sunflower.
Right? I love the folks that introduce themselves and they're like, here's my two dogs, here's my cat, here's this, here's that. I love that because it's like I think nowadays it's hard to share who we are on the personal side. Right.
Mhm.
I think we need to do more of that. That comes a lot more genuine to people. Like, yeah, I'm human too. You
Yeah.
know, I got two left feet. I sweat profusely, you know.
Yeah.
So we'll get to know all of that stuff. But hopefully we see you guys on December 10th. We do have an amazing guest speaker, Brittany. Um, is she in Pennsylvania? I'm forgetting where she's located.
Yeah. You live
Huh?
in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, she is in
Yeah.
Pennsylvania. There you
Uh-huh.
go. So coming all the way from Pennsylvania, she will be our guest speaker on episode 2 on December 10th, 5:30 Pacific Standard Time, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. And anyone in between, you guys can. We also have recordings, so if you guys miss out because of who knows what, you can always tap back in to our YouTube channel. But yeah, happy holidays, everyone, and I hope this was reflective for the holidays and gives you something to be more grateful for. All right.